All right, hi class. And so today we're going to have a little mini lesson on some fractions and how we can take them from a mixed number into a improper fraction and kind of back and forth so that we can practice in our head kind of getting it straight, like what does it really mean when we're adding these two together? What if we're taking a whole and adding it with a fraction? So what does that kind of look like? So I wanted to kind of do a T-chart with you to kind of visualize what's happening here. So the first one we're going to do is 4 equals 3 plus something. Now we can tell that these are whole numbers, right? So I'm representing this with whole chunks or a whole whatever it is that we're representing. Now these are tape diagrams, but we could say, okay, this is a whole candy bar, or these are whole pans of brownies, or whatever you want to say. It's complete, all of it's there, it is whole. So if we have 4 and we say 4 equals 3 plus something, we're saying, okay, well, we have 3 here. I've drawn 3 holes. What else do we need to make this complete as a 4? Well, we need one more, right, to make it 4. So if I draw another hole there, I could say 4 equals 3 plus, and I just drew one more. Okay. Now I want you to kind of think of that for a second. Is there any way that I could write that differently as another type of fraction? Because 3 plus 1 does equal 4, but if I wanted to think of this as a fraction, what could I have changed that to really make it a fraction? I could have maybe said, all right, this one that I'm adding, I could actually maybe break it up. I'm going to use a different color just so you can see it. I could actually break that up into thirds. I could break it up into eighths or sevenths or sixths, whatever number I wanted, as long as I don't eat any of those pieces or none of those pieces are going away. It's still staying whole. But I could also say that this 4 plus, I could say, if I broke it into thirds, I could say plus 3 thirds. That would still be true, right? Because 3 thirds is really one more whole. So I could say 3 plus 3 thirds equals 4 as well. I've just cut this one whole piece that all of them are there into 3 pieces. And, I could choose any amount that I cut it into. I could have cut this into fifths and have 5 fifths, or I could have cut it into sevenths and had 7 sevenths. As long as all of my pieces are still there, I could rename that as a fraction as well. For the time being, though, we're going to leave this as 3 plus 1 more whole, is equal to 4. Now, let's look at our next number. Now, this one says 4 thirds. Now, I've drawn a picture of, I only have 3 thirds here. Let me make 4 thirds. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 thirds. So now I have 4 thirds there. And this is saying is equal to 3 thirds plus something else. Where does my 3 thirds look like it's in the picture? Oh, it's right here. We have 3 thirds equaling that one whole. And what do we have left over to add to it? I need something else. How many more thirds do I need? Well, you can see right in my picture, I have one more third to make that complete. So my answer would be 3 thirds plus 1 more third equals 4 thirds. All right, now let's move down to our next problem. 4 thirds again. So we're still working in thirds, and we still have 4 of those 1/3 pieces. So I'm going to draw another picture of that and break them into thirds. And we have 4 pieces of them. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. So really similar to our other picture, we're still working with 4 thirds. But now, instead of having 3 thirds like we named this one, now we're going to just say, oh, this is just one whole. All right, so it's kind of like I haven't really even broke any of it apart. It's just one whole. And then I have what else to make 4/3. So this is just kind of another way to name we're just giving it another name. Just kind of like, you call your mom or mother or things like that. We're just renaming it as the same name. So here we have 1 plus, what do we have over here? Oh, we have 1/3. So our answer would be 1/3. So you can kind of see now this little pattern that's happening, that I can write this one whole as 3/3, or I can just write it as 1, and it's really the same thing. I'm still going to have 4/3 in the end. All right, okay, now we're going to come down to our last one, and we have 4/3 again. And now we're not adding anything together, we're just naming it. We're just renaming this 4/3. And what could we name it? Well, we know from our past picture that we have to have 4 of these thirds, right? So we're still going to have 1, 2, 3, 4 of them. So we have our 4/3, and now we're just saying, what could we call this whole thing all together? What could we rename 4/3 into? Well, we've got our 1 whole there and our 1/3. So we could name it 1 and 1/3. All right. So you can see kind of what is it that we're really trying to learn here in this lesson? Well, we're trying to point out that you can name things different ways, right? And it really means the same thing. You still have the same amount. We're just naming it in different ways. We're naming this as 3/3 as a whole. We're naming this as 1 whole. And we're naming this as 1 and 1/3. All right.